This is Dr. Frank Thomas with another installment of African American Preaching. I have been talking about, in our history, the folk preaching tradition and the intellectual preaching tradition. And while sometimes these traditions are often at odds with one another, sometimes the intellectual crowd will look down on the folk crowd because of their lack of education, and sometimes the uneducated crowd, the folk crowd, will look down on the intellectual crowd as not really knowing what's going on, living in an ivory tower, etc. The best preachers in the African American preaching tradition combine the best of both. It's possible to combine the great gifts of the intellectual tradition, the rationalism, the structure, the argumentation, and also some of the greatest gifts of the folk tradition: story, image, the ability to paint word pictures and argue by word pictures and rather than just words. That these two traditions come together in the best of African American preaching. And I'm going to give you some names of some preachers that I would like for you to Google, because some of this needs to be heard. I want you to Google Gardner Calvin Taylor, called the Dean of African American Preaching. Google Gardner Calvin Taylor and listen to the majesty of some of his sermons. I want you to Google Prathia Hall. You remember Prathia Hall? Well, you remember that I Have a Dream piece that Martin Luther King did that is so famous around the world now? Some sources say that Prathia Hall did it first, and Martin Luther King heard it from Prathia Hall, a woman preacher, a woman civil rights activist, and Martin Luther King picked it up, tailored it, and made it famous when he heard it first from Prathia Hall. Google Prathia Hall. She was wonderful. Now, one place you can get this information is in a book called Preaching with Sacred Fire. It's an anthology of African American sermons from 1750 to the present. I happen to be one of the editors. Martha Simmons is my co-editor. We edited this volume together, and we have many fine African American preachers we list them, we give you background on them, and we also give you their sermons so that you can hear them. It's published. You can just Google it. You can pick it up. As a matter of fact, later on, I'm going to include a bibliography that you can pick up. I'm going to include it in another video. You can download the bibliography, and you'll find this book on the bibliography. It's a very important work. Here's some listen to Jeremiah A. Wright. Listen to Charles Edward Booth. Listen to Dr. Gina Stewart. Listen to Claudette Copeland. Google these names. And I hope that you'll listen to some of my sermons, Frank A. Thomas. You can Google some of those as well. They're certainly not in the stature and class of some of these names I've just mentioned. But we have tons and tons and tons of fabulous preachers, that need to be heard. I hope you'll listen to some as well as read their sermons, because the best of African American preaching joins the intellectual tradition and the folk tradition to help reach the hearts of people with the gospel of Jesus Christ. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. And please don't forget that each and every Monday we do a Periscope live broadcast, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Twice a week we release videos in this series on African American preaching. And finally, each and every week we upload spiritual vitamins to SoundCloud. We want to make sure that you will subscribe to each of these platforms. And I know you want to get as fast as you can this powerful information that's coming forth. So sign up. God bless you, and thank you so much for watching.